Welcome to the 2022 General Election Candidate videos, made possible by a partnership between Collin County Votes, which is an initiative of the Collin County Business Alliance, and the Allen, Frisco, McKinney, and Plano Chambers of Commerce.
My name is Crystal Howard. I am the publisher for Community Impact newspaper in DFW, and it is my privilege and honor to bring you these videos today so that we can all become more informed about the candidates on our ballot. We have with us Jeff Williams running for Collin County Precinct 4. Mr. Williams, thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here. Well, let's just jump right in. The first question is one that I love, and personally, I get it a lot. What does a newspaper publisher do? So, in your words, what do you see as the role of a county commissioner?
A county commissioner is a member of a body that basically is like the board of directors for the county. And there is one just like it in all 250 plus counties in Texas. And we are the ones that ultimately provide a catch-all for residents in Collin County who are not living in incorporated areas. So the sheriff's office, the court system, the budget, those are the main things that we deal with. And even though I'm not running for county judge, I do consider it to be a leadership role in the county.
Great, thank you. Well, share for us then what your top 2 to 3 legislative priorities would be if elected.
Okay, well, first of all, I think the major issue and the common thread through the issues that I'm campaigning on is leadership. So having witnessed the behavior of the Commissioner's Court firsthand, I can tell you not only do we need a change in leadership in terms of professionalism and courage, but also a vision for the future. So the 3 areas I'm choosing to focus on is 1, public safety. As people may or may not be aware of, the Sheriff's Office is experiencing a time of crisis. There are staff shortages, poor working conditions that are crippling morale, and having a direct impact on how we manage the jail, police outlying areas, help abuse women and children, and administer justice overall. Secondly, I want to reassess how we address healthcare for the indigent, which includes mental health. Currently, Collin County does not run or operate a single hospital or clinic. Instead, money is funneled into the major health systems, thus privatizing essential care with little or no zeal or compassion. And lastly, no issue is more vital to Collin County than infrastructure. So by putting me in the court, you can be sure that Democrats will cut the ribbons when we expand and boost broadband access, modernize our energy grid, and make sure we continue to have the ability to maintain and produce clean water that we and our children can consume and use safely.
Thank you. Well, you mentioned infrastructure. Obviously, all the fast growth in Collin County is part of the driving need for infrastructure. So, what are your thoughts on the growth to date? And what would you do if elected, your priorities regarding growth going forward?
Well, obviously, people are moving here because they understand that this is a growing community, and it's growing rather rapidly when you look at the rest of the state of the rest of the country. But it is putting significant strain on our infrastructure, as you said. The one idea that I have championed that I think best deals with the problem is to grow small business ecosystems in the areas where there's the highest concentration and congestion. So we can attack the problem at the source. Because even though it's a large community, there are somewhat isolated neighborhoods and areas where we have the most residential growth, but not necessarily the most business growth. So if we can make it so that people don't have to drive or commute as far in order to just satisfy their basic needs and wants, then we can go a long way in addressing the level of stress that we put on our infrastructure. Because ultimately, we're never going to have enough money to build enough roads and maintain the ones we have. So we have to think outside of the box, and I think that's the best way to do it.
Thank you. Well, what do you see as the top needs for the business community? And what would you do to help meet those needs and ensure that there is continued economic growth in Collin County?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we can do is open up the lines of communication, not just among ourselves, but also among communities that are neighbors to us. The more that we can share information, the better that we can tailor the growth of our businesses and address the growing needs of the public. I for one feel like as a whole, the community has done a good job of maintaining a good relationship with the business community, but there's always room for correction or growth. Um, but I think that when we're talking about real estate prices, uh, increasing wages, just general inflation overall. Hopefully, if we can address the COVID crisis in a way that kind of makes it more normalized, we can start to have a more predictable future in terms of what things are going to cost and how much we can build out from what we have now.
Thank you. So you've mentioned infrastructure and transportation, but I'm curious if you had to nail it down to the single biggest transportation issue facing the county, what do you see as that top issue and how would you address it if elected?
Well, I think I kind of alluded to it when I spoke about how we can address commute times, and you know I think Dallas County has demonstrated that public transportation is a work in progress, and uh, I do think that there is a growing gap in terms of income inequality in Collin County because we have all the hallmarks of the problems of a major city now, and uh, and as we know, the people that have the lowest incomes generally rely more on public transportation. But in Collin County, we're a bit more unique because, like I said, living areas are more isolated, so people are just inherently going to have to driving, transport themselves further than they might in other areas. So I don't necessarily think investing in public transportation is going to be the key. I think the key is going to be making sure that each neighborhood, each area has its own ecosystem so that people can we can meet the needs that they have.
Thank you. Well, you mentioned this in the vein of transportation, but asking for a broader overview of how would you plan to incorporate equity into your legislative priorities?
Equity in terms of economic.
With the growing diversity in Collin County.
Well, I think the best way that we can help people and address inequity in the economic system is to give them support. And what I mean by that is uh, let's increase apprenticeships because the the majority of workers in North Texas are people of color, and yet somehow they have missed out on participating in the added uh, worth and value that has been added to people's lives and their incomes. So what we have to do is make sure that we give them the support they need so that they can climb the next rung on the ladder. So that includes, job training, increasing the minimum wage, giving them affordable access to healthcare, and probably the most underestimated issue is one of childcare, because we're seeing that play out. The COVID pandemic has exposed our vulnerabilities in that area when we look at what's happening with schools and with people making a decision to work at home. So that is going to be one issue that I think needs to be addressed, particularly in light of this crisis.
Thank you. Well, this last question is my favorite. If you were to talk to somebody from out of town that was looking to move to Collin County or maybe move their business here, what would your 30-second elevator pitch be to them?
Well, uh, that's in my wheelhouse because I myself have moved here and have been a transplant from New Orleans. So I think what I would tell them is that there is richness in the diversity in terms of our people. They care about their neighborhoods. They contribute to their communities. We have access to the kind of infrastructure economic and healthcare wise, that a big city needs. And schools are good. There's opportunity. The only thing I would say is maybe not rely on the food as much as we do in New Orleans. So, but other than that, I think we're doing pretty well.
All right, Mr. Jeff Williams, thank you so much for your time and for really allowing the voters to get to know you better and where you stand on the issues.
Of course, I was honored by the invitation, so thank you for having me.